There's a race piece to this, too, though. Can we talk about the race piece to this? I'm sorry, go ahead. I'm rejecting the narrative that I've introduced race into this conversation. The conversation became about race. You literally said
you wanted to bring race up.
You did.
You literally said, I want to bring race up.
And this is my first time saying this out loud. But y'all think you're going to shame somebody or bully into voting for this? Oh, it's a shame that you're not supporting a black woman. She's not black.
She is black. And you're being particularly hypocritical, bro.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope all's good wherever you are. In this video, we have a couple of segments from the Piers Morgan Show, the latest episode of Uncensored, where Candace Owens, Lord Jamar, and race-baiting liberal Mark Lamont Hill were on the show. The first part we're going to look at is when they talk about the Diddy situation and all that malarkey. And the next part, they're going to debate Kamala Harris, policies, the election. Let's get it.
It's not enough that it's just John Legend. Like, there needs to be a lot more people in Hollywood that are speaking out about what's happening.
Let me ask you,
There's
Mark,
a race piece to this, too, though. Can we talk about the race piece to this? I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was literally about to ask you about that.
No,
so you go ahead, Mark, go on.
Because it's really fascinating here, right? So we're saying Diddy does this awful thing. Again, Diddy, despicable, monster, no defense of Diddy. We're asking all the prominent black people to speak out against it, right? But there is never a call for white people to denounce like, no one says every white guy who's ever met Harvey Weinstein needs to say something.
Yes, there was. Of course there was.
No.
Literally everyone who ever worked with him was asked to condemn it. And most of them rushed to do it.
Piers, I want you to listen to what I said again, because you just disagreed with a point I did not make. I didn't say that everyone in Hollywood was not challenged to address Weinstein. I said there's a race piece to this. And people, by virtue of being black, are asked to denounce Diddy because they're supposed to be representing blackness in the black community. I'm saying that white people, by virtue of their whiteness.
Hang on.
That's exactly what Candace. That's exactly what Candace just said.
I'm talking about
Candace, not you.
I'm not saying every black person has to comment on it because they're black. I'm saying I've been struck by the fact there is a massively smaller number of high-profile black celebrities who have spoken out comparative to what happened when Weinstein went down. So you're right that there is a race element to this, but it's the reverse one. Hang on. Let me finish. It's the reverse point to the one you're making. It actually is skewed against the white guy. He got more of a lambasting from celebrities than the black guy who's done arguably worse stuff.
I wish I had the same race goggles. It's amazing, Mark, that you always see a race angle here. The reason why I specifically called out LeBron James and these types is because they themselves are wearing the same race goggles. They purport to be the superheroes in the black community, that every time there's some sort of a social injustice playing out against a black victim, they use their platforms to speak out about it because they say, oh, it's so unfair that black people are not being believed. It's so unfair. Hashtag George Floyd, hashtag this person. So if you are going to assert yourself as a leader when black people make claims before they're proven in court, this might be a good time to do it when you have a man who had so much power in Hollywood and you just have an onslaught of black artists coming out saying that they were victimized by him. It might be a good time to use your platform. I'm calling out the hypocrisy and the double standard of that. If LeBron James had kept his mouth shut on every other issue and said nothing, I wouldn't be like, hey, why is LeBron James being quiet on this issue? I'd say he doesn't typically weigh in on anything, so it wouldn't make sense to put pressure on him to do it. That would be the scenario in which what you are saying would make sense. It's the exact opposite. I'm saying keep the exact same energy that you have had on every other black issue when it comes to your door and it pertains to a friend of yours that you were partying with. I think that's pretty sensible.
Yeah. Mark, where is Justin?
Do you mind if I respond to that?
Sure.
Because there are 3 points that were made that I'd like to respond to. First thing is, I'm rejecting the narrative that I've introduced race into this conversation. The conversation
you
became
literally
about
said
race,
you wanted to bring race up.
You did.
You literally said, I want to bring race up. You literally started the conversation about race.
You did it.
All right, I'm going to ask you to allow me to finish a sentence uninterrupted the way you have, Candace. Then you can hear why you're actually not correct. Hear what I'm saying. When I said I want to bring race into this, it was in response to the point that Candace had made 5 minutes prior. When you watch this on TV, y'all, or on YouTube, rewind it and you'll see this. When she said LeBron James has spoken out for the black community, right? and historically, but isn't saying anything here. That was the first time that race was mentioned. My invocation of race was in response to that. And as you conceded just a moment ago, when you disagreed with me, you were saying that you weren't asking all, you were saying that there's a relatively lower response from the black community on this issue than prior issues.
Not black community.
Again, my invocation of race.
Not black community. High-profile celebrity.
Black celebrities. Fair enough. Fair enough.
It's a much smaller part of the community.
I agree with you, but the fundamental point here is when I said I'm introducing race, it was to respond to a claim that was already racialized around LeBron James 5 to 10 minutes prior. Now, to actually address the issue that I was responding to, because I didn't introduce race into the conversation, the idea here for me is when Harvey Weinstein does something, Hollywood has to respond. When Diddy does something, black people have to respond. Now, I happen to believe that as a black person with a public platform, an athlete, an actress, or a journalist, we should respond to the Diddy thing. I don't think that we should ignore our responsibility.
So what are you complaining about?
Communities. I'm okay, but my complaint is that when black people don't do it, we are criticized differently than when the white guy doesn't do it. So
hang on. Mark, I'm sorry, but the idea that people were running around asking random white people in the street about Harvey Weinstein is ridiculous. They're not doing it.
I didn't say that.
And they're not doing it with random black people in the street either.
I didn't say that.
I'm talking.
That's a straw man. That is a straw man.
No, it's not. The straw man argument is you.
Random white people.
No, you are conflating.
I didn't say random white people. I didn't say random white people in the street. I said white people in Hollywood.
Hang on.
I said white people in Hollywood. Not white people in the street.
I understand, but I'm conflating two things.
That's not the same.
I'm conflating.
I know you are.
High-profile black celebrities and high-profile white celebrities and how they responded to Weinstein and to Diddy, and it's been very different. The volume of white celebrities who denounced Weinstein was far higher than it's been with Diddy.
And my response to that is, when Weinstein happens, people didn't say, hey, where are the high-profile white Hollywood celebrities? What they said is, where are the high-profile celebrities? Where are the Hollywood types? They were asking Will Smith as much as they were asking Heidi Klum. When it comes to Diddy, they're only asking for black people.
Well, hang on, Candace, hang on. Again, Mark.
Hang on, I didn't finish the sentence yet. Let me finish the sentence before you disagree with me.
You're wrong.
Piers.
Candace literally mentioned Ashton Kutcher, who last time I checked is a white guy.
I did mention Ashton Kutcher.
Ashton Kutcher's white.
Okay.
He's white.
Again, I want you to hear what I'm actually saying, and I want you to actually hear what I'm saying and disagree with what I'm saying and not what I'm not saying. The conversation about Harvey Weinstein, and I challenge you to show me any piece of evidence where you called out and said, hey, I'd love to hear from some high-profile white celebrities. You never said white. You just said high-profile celebrities. Maybe to you, Hollywood just means white. But in general, the idea here for Weinstein was we want his peers to speak out. We want his peers to say something. We want white people, black people, we just want his peers to say something. But when black people don't do it, it is framed as some kind of specific or unique moral failure, and that's the idea that I'm challenging here. Again, I want everybody to speak out against both of those monsters.
Okay.
But I'm saying let's not treat one differently than the other.
With respect, the slight flaw is that Candace actually said LeBron and Ashton Kutcher, and last time I checked, Ashton Kutcher, and this may not be the case, but I believe he still identifies as a white guy.
Last I checked, you're not Candace Owens. Last I checked, you're not Candace Owens. I'm criticizing you right now, Piers, not Candace Owens. So you can't say, well, Candace said it. Y'all not a buddy comedy here. I'm critiquing your approach and coverage of this conversation.
Right.
And you can't say, well, Candace said it. I didn't disagree with Candace. I disagree with you on that particular point.
Okay. Okay, let's take a little beat.
I do want to say.
What are you talking about? Well, Candace said it.
You can't say.
Candace?
I don't think you could say, I would like to introduce race, and then 30 seconds later say, I did not introduce race. I mean, the records will show you definitely introduced race. And I brought up LeBron James, and for a very specific reason, because he was quite literally at the parties, and because he's used his platform to speak out on black victimization, not because he was black. I was pointing out the astounding hypocrisy. I didn't say, let's talk about LeBron James because he's a black man. I mean, I would have brought up tons of other black people and said, where are their voices? But it wouldn't have made sense because they don't hang out with him and they don't use their platforms. And I did bring up Ashton Kutcher as well, and very many other celebrities. I'm pretty sure Chrissy Teigen is not black; she's Asian. So I'm completely confused. completely lost at what point you were trying to make there. I do think that you do tend to see things through the vein of race, because when people are just making a sound point about why it is that there is some interest in LeBron James' silence right now. And I think he should speak out because he had a friendship there and because he purports that he cares so much about Black victimization, and there is a long list of Black victims.
Right, and Mark,
I think it's very sound.
Mark,
you can disagree with it.
Yeah. And Mark, before you respond, Mark,
I agree with the point that you're making, Candace.
Candace ain't wrong here when she talks about LeBron James. This is a guy who's been pictured there, who's praised Diddy's parties, who's been pictured in dresses and little girls' clothes, and someone also who is very quick to stand on his high horse and talk down to people every time they do something wrong in social media. He's very pro-cancel culture, and now he's quiet, completely crickets on this stuff. Diddy is somebody that the Black community has praised for years. The guy's been praised by Obama. He's been praised by Oprah. This is a man that the Black community has embraced for years, and now they don't want to speak on him. Now, also Diddy, most of his friends were Black. Most of the people at these parties were Black. But I think if you were a white guy at that party, you need to speak up too. I think this is not like a Black or white thing. It's not a race thing for me. It's just like who was around this man. I'd like to hear from Leonardo DiCaprio. The same way that all the Epstein people on that list, Kamala's puppet masters that are probably on that list, yeah, and anybody that we know that's on that list should be speaking out as well. For me, this is not a race thing. This is not a Black people speaking out or white people speaking out. If you were there, if you were friends with this man, you need to speak up. But the thing is, if you speak up after the fact on all these things, like we hear guys coming out and women coming out saying, yeah, we knew about this, you don't get points for speaking up on something evil after the man's been caught. You don't get points for that. Say it at the time, when nobody knows about it, when nobody's talking about it, when something needs to be done to maybe help these people or stop bad things from happening to people. Once the police catch the guy and put him in handcuffs and then he's getting charged, he's in jail, and you're like, yeah, I knew about this. You get no points for that. I'm sorry. Let's get back to it.
You've also, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you said that there wouldn't have been the attention on the raid at Diddy's home, for example, if he'd been a white rapper, to which I would say, if that had been Eminem at the height of his powers...
Say that again. I didn't hear you.
I believe you said before, in a previous debate or interview, that there wouldn't have been the same attention that was given to the raid on Diddy's home if it had been a white rapper, to which I would say...
say that.
You didn't say that?
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
What did you say about that?
You can disagree with that point too, but you wouldn't be disagreeing with me.
Okay.
But feel free to make your Eminem argument.
So apparently on the documentary, well, just to clarify, on the documentary with TMZ, that's what I'm told is where you said that.
It's hard for me to imagine that had this been many other celebrities, particularly white celebrities, that their children would have been in handcuffs and they would have been forced to stare down the barrel of guns and seen armored tanks. It just seemed like a lot for a raid of a music producer.
Right, I know the documentary you're referencing. I wish you would have watched it, with all due respect, and then you would know I didn't say that. I'll tell you what I said, though. Yeah. What I did say was, not the attention. Diddy is an international superstar. Black, white, red, or yellow, we should be watching Diddy. And there's no reason why race is playing into the why of why we're watching it. That had nothing to do with what I'm talking about. What I'm talking about was the actual nature of the raid. Typically, unless you believe, and this is what I was arguing at the time, unless you believe that Diddy was an armed threat, there was no need to handle his children, who were not at the time charged with anything, in the way that they did. There was no reason to have SWAT, almost like the National Guard, this full military infrastructure, to do this. I think they should. I'm not saying they shouldn't have raided the house. I'm not saying they shouldn't have arrested Diddy. I'm not saying any of that. I'm saying that what my comparison is, they wouldn't have done that to Mark Cuban. That's my point. But there's now, as more evidence comes out,
hang on. Mark, hang on. On that point, you said they wouldn't have done it to Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is a massive celebrity in America. If he had been doing what we now know from this charge sheet against P. Diddy he's accused of doing, damn right they'd have done that to Mark Cuban. These are not like small...
Done what?
These are not small allegations.
Done what?
Well, have you read the
charge?
Done
what?
Have you read the charge sheet against Diddy? You know what he's accused of.
That's not what I'm disagreeing. Again,
You're saying the nature of the raid would not have been as over the top if it had been Mark Cuban because he's a white guy, right? Is that what you said?
I actually don't think it's quite that simple. I think the rapper part of it has a lot to do with it. I think they might have done that to Eminem. That's what I'm saying. It's not purely racial. I'm saying.
Well, what is the point you're making? I don't really understand it.
I promise you, just pro tip here, journalist to journalist. If you let me finish the sentence, you'll completely get what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that with Diddy, as opposed to say Mark Cuban, just to use that example, there's an assumption that even if Mark Cuban is committing awful acts, or Harvey Weinstein, we don't need tanks. We don't need to tie his children up and make them sit outside, because there's no reason to believe that those children are going to do harm. There is a default assumption that there's going to be a level of danger attached to Diddy that aren't even consistent with the charges. Again, he's a monster, right? But they don't usually break into homes with tanks and machine guns for child molesters, even though child molesters are the worst people in the world.
Well,
because there's no reason to believe they're going to be thrown out with AR-15s.
It depends how many guns they think the person has, I would imagine. Candace, back to you.
Yeah, so I just wanted to bring up a friend of mine, James O'Keefe, who got braided by the feds and had guns pointed at him over a diary, Ashley Biden's diary, that he didn't even publish. He's a white guy, had nothing to do with anything, and eventually was not found guilty. So this is the way that they act during raids. Regarding his children, if you read the initial lawsuit with Lil Rod, there was a very credible allegation, which Lil Rod made, that he was there the night that Puffy, Diddy, whatever his name is today, that his son was involved in the shooting that was in the bathroom. So it was obviously understandable that they may have thought, given the allegations, that his son had something to do with it. His son was listed all throughout the lawsuit. So when they were raiding them, they were probably also raiding the sons as well. That was my immediate assumption when I saw it. But I do think it's completely absurd to suggest that there was any sort of rapper or black motivation behind the raid. Like I said, James O'Keefe is a perfect example, and they did not have anything. They had no reason to raid James O'Keefe in the manner that they did, and they did while he was in his boxers at like 3 a.m. in the morning, and they put they put guns to his head. So I just completely dispute.
Yeah, James O'Keefe, who Candace is talking about, the guy got raided and arrested. And this was, I think, for the Ashley Biden story about her diary, which she said about Joe in there. I'm not 100% on it. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. This was the government using its power the same way it's tried to use it against Trump, the Democratic Party, to bully people. Now, in the next segment, they're going to talk about Kamala Harris and Obama. They're going to play the clip of Obama talking down to black guys at I think it was a barber shop, and telling them that they're a misogynist and that the only reason they're not voting for Kamala Harris is because of her gender. What a slap in the face to the black community. Now, I'm not the biggest Stephen A. Smith fan, but he nailed it in the clip that I'm going to play you in 1 second. But right before that, I want to play you a clip. This is to show you how much they look down on lower income communities. This is Kamala Harris in a recent interview being asked about voter ID. Now, we all know the fact that they don't want people to have ID to vote is because they want illegals to vote. They want to try to buy votes that way. This is why in California it's now illegal to ask for voter ID at the polls. But nonetheless, this clip is gold. Let's get it.
Is agreeing to voter ID one of those compromises that you'd support? I don't think that we should underestimate what that could mean. Because in some people's mind, that means, well, you're going to have to Xerox or photocopy your ID to send it in to prove you are who you are. Well, there are a whole lot of people, especially people who live in rural communities, who don't. There's no Kinko's, there's no Office Max near them. People have to understand that when we're talking about voter ID laws, be clear about who you have in mind and what would be required of them to prove who they are. Of course, people have to prove who they are, but not in a way that makes it almost impossible for them to prove who they are.
Before I go any further, I want you to hear exactly what this man had to say.
I'm speaking to men directly now. Part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. That's not acceptable.
Respectfully, President Obama, what you said is not acceptable. Is it possible that the only reason some black folks may not be inclined to vote, or they may be a bit disenchanted, or dare I say may even be willing to go as far as voting for Trump, is it possible that it's policy as opposed to misogyny. Inflation, the cost of living, the price of gas, the price of groceries. That don't matter? Immigration and our borders. And this belief that there's an elevated level of sensitivity towards them, as opposed to black folks struggling, if not starving in this country. Yes, that plays a role too. When the mayor of New York was talking about $53 million in prepaid credit cards for immigrants who came across our borders illegally and having prepaid credit cards for them. And I said, wait a minute, black folks been starving for years. We ain't get that. You don't think they notice?
I'm going to play first of all, the Barack Obama clip, and then I'm going to play the clip that you said in response to it. Let's play the two.
And you're coming up with all kinds of reasons and excuses. I've got a problem with that because part of it makes me think, and I'm speaking to men directly now, part of it makes me think that, well, you just aren't feeling the idea of having a woman as president. And you're coming up with other alternatives and other reasons for it.
And now I want to play the clip from Lord Jamar talking about that.
Well, I feel that she's so bad that guess what? I might just go around and vote for Trump. And this is my first time saying this out loud. But y'all think you're going to shame somebody or bully into voting for this? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And now you're going to make me be Mr. Anti. You keep coming at me with this bullshit. You keep coming at me talking about, oh, it's a shame that you're not supporting a black woman. And she's not black.
Now, Mark, let me ask you honestly, Mark, if this had been the other way round, if this had been... hang on, Jamal, Lord Jamal, I'll come to you in a sec. I just want to get their reaction to what we've just played because it's gone viral, as I said. But Mark, if it had been the other way round, if you had a former white president saying you've got to vote for Trump if you're white, you'd have gone absolutely nuts. So why is it okay for Barack Obama to order black people to vote for Kamala Harris, given how unpopular she currently is to the extent where Trump is ahead in 5 of the 7 swing states? Why should they?
So, a couple of things. First, no one should vote for anybody based on identity politics. You should never vote for somebody because they're black, right? Yeah, Obama's wrong. I mean, I didn't vote for him.
I love that.
Obama's wrong. Yeah, Obama's wrong. Yeah, so
we all agree.
But we don't all agree though, because I don't think though. I think Obama's wrong for several reasons in that video, but Obama's not arguing that you should vote for Kamala Harris because she's black. He's arguing you should vote for them because you're black. In other words, she best represents your interests. Disagree with Jamar, though, my brother, calling her, and again, I heard a bleep. I've been in the hood a long time. From that context, it sounded like you were calling her the B word. I couldn't see it, but I heard it. I'm not going to vote for that. Bleep. Sounded like the B word. I can't imagine a circumstance where we need to call her that. In real life and in music, and there's just no reason for that. She doesn't deserve that any more than she deserves to be told that she's not qualified to run a Dunkin' Donuts. Those types of comments, I think, are unnecessary, even if you might agree that black people shouldn't be sheep. How does she disrespect you?
By placating to me, by giving me word salads and all kind of nonsense, acting like she doesn't have to answer questions, being the artful dodger. That's very disrespectful.
You think she deserves to be called a B for that?
Well, listen, first of all, the platform I was on was a different kind of platform. You know what I mean? It's a much looser platform. It's more hip hop orientated. And if she wants to get down, act like she's black, well,
she is black, man. She is black. That's the other piece. I don't want to interrupt Candace. I know Candace got stuff to say. I want to hear Candace. I'm sorry. She is black, and you're being particularly hypocritical, bro.
She's not
bro, you've been real hypocritical.
Let me clear two things up. First of all, Piers, you had a guest on named VJ or something that said I never voted or something like that. I don't know where he pulled that out his ass from, but yes, I have voted before. Yeah. I actually voted for Obama the first time around. I got caught in that nonsense. But also, that comment that you're showing me was not in response to what Obama said. I said that prior to Obama coming out trying to be the father of, you know, black men and all this type of stuff.
Right.
But it was it sounded like it went with it.
It did, yeah.
But in response, listen, Barry, you're not our father, and we're not going to just, you're not going to shake the finger of condemnation at us and think that you're going to shame us into doing what you want. We're not, you know, we're waking up as black people right now, and we're thinking for ourselves, and we're not just going along with the Democratic Party. First of all, I'm a registered independent, so don't act like I'm waving the Republican flag. But when it comes to leadership and all this type of thing, I don't see why we're trying to give this woman a promotion. She had one job, which was the border. She failed at that. They kept her in the background this whole time. I saw what they were going to do with her from the beginning, and I don't feel that she's the one. I'm sorry.
And by the way, you are absolutely I know, Jamar, you are perfectly entitled. I want to bring in Candace, who's been waiting patiently. I mean, Candace, this whole sort of premise, and I'm glad Lord Jamar clarified he said that before Obama spoke, although his answer clearly would have been exactly the same. His response would have been the same, because it's all part of the same thing, which is this sort of weird thing, which frankly is quite racist. There's another way to look at it, that you should judge according to your skin colour and feel a duty, a compulsion to do so, seems to me to be racist.
It is fundamentally racist, and it's something that I think Black people are right to be upset about. And then there's also this. You are correct to say that there is nothing about Kamala Harris or Barack Obama, for being frank, that is Black. I covered this on my show yesterday, went through Barack Obama's history. There is something that is very cartoonish about them working to Blackify a politician before they run for office. And what I mean by that is, like, Barry Soetoro, first 8 years of his life grew up in Indonesia. Okay, then he was with his white mother and his Indonesian stepfather. He then went to Hawaii, which had a population of just 5,000 Black people. 86% of them were in the military, and attended a school that is $31,000 per year. And it was all white people. He was raised by his white grandparents, the Dunnans. He's never lied about this, by the way. He then went off to college and had a white dorm mate, dated a white woman. There's nothing about Barack Obama's history that gives him, in my viewpoint, like the stepping ground to be talking to the brothers about the Black American experience. If you've ever even been to Hawaii, it doesn't even feel like America. Genuinely, it feels like we took this country from an Asian country, took this state from an Asian country. And so when you realize that, and you see how right before they run, suddenly the story changes. They drop a book and they work to Blackify themselves. Obama didn't know his father, his Kenyan father, growing up, and now all of a sudden he wants to lean into this stereotype. To me, it feels like they're both wearing blackface. I can't sort through all of Kamala's various accents. There's so many of them. She's in front of a Latina crowd. Suddenly she's Selena, you know, and she's speaking like a Latina. And then she's in front of a Jamaican crowd and she's dropping man. You know, I can't deal with it. It is way too much Hollywood acting for me. Then she's got the black scent going and girl, what are you talking about? She's in front of a white crowd. She's speaking like a California Valley girl. I don't trust it. Yeah, I just do not trust somebody that slips that quickly through so many personalities. There is nothing about her upbringing, extraordinarily wealthy. Just she was sworn in Congress as an Indian American. Her mother is Indian. She grew up with an Indian experience and was proud of that until she ran for office, for president of the United States. And that is something that I am not comfortable with. I do not accept this narrative that she should be speaking about herself as a Black woman. It's not okay, and I fully reject it.
Okay. Is that there's lots of reasons to criticize Kamala Harris, but to frame her as unqualified.
Okay,
again,
that's a fair point. She's not unqualified.
She's qualified.
Okay.
You just might think she's going to make the wrong choices. My next point that she's not black.
Listen,
the next point that she's not.
Guys, I need to. Now, Marco, jump in. We're running out of time. Candace has to go.
Is the biggest point.
Okay, go on, make your big point quickly.
Let's talk about her blackness, please. Talk about the black experience.
Real quick, two quick points.
Quick, Mark, quick, because McCann has to go.
The blackness point is what's crazy here to me, right? First of all, the idea that she puts on, they're not personalities, they're codes, and black people code switch from place to place. Wait till you hear me talk to my accountant later. Wait till you hear me talk to my agent later, like, yo, why'd you put me on Piers? Just kidding. Wait till I talk to the people at the local soul food spot. They all gonna be different. Wait till I say peace to the gods and earths in New York. It's gonna be a different conversation. Black people talk differently. When someone says that's my aunt, they're not lying because they don't have shared blood. Black people call people auntie. That's fictive. Right. That is blackness. Going to Howard is a black experience. Pledging AKA is a black experience. And lastly, Jamar, for somebody who is a 5%er who believes that, and I respect your belief, but to believe that the black man is the Asiatic black man, the maker, the owner, the cream of the planet Earth, the father of the civilization, the God of the universe, who came from North America by himself from Saudi Arabia. You believe that person is black, but somebody who went to Howard ain't? Come on, bro.
Okay, I'm going to leave the final word to Candace before we have to end. Candace, what's going to happen on November the 5th? Well,
since code switching is normal, since code switching is normal in the black community, Piers, I'm going to speak to you like this because this would be totally normal if I put on a UK accent. And it's been lovely
I know where you get that from because you're married to a Brit.
Thank you so much for. Thank you so much for having me, and I can't wait to run for president and just put on a different accent every time I speak to someone.
I don't actually think this political race is going to be as close as everybody says it is. Assuming there's no, excuse my language, fuckery that happens, I don't think it's going to be close by the time we get to the voting part of it. I don't believe the media. I do believe the American people are done with this. The economy is so shit right now. It is so bad across the board with inflation, the housing market, all of it. You think if Obama's economy was so good, people would have voted for Trump? No. If the Democrats' economy was that great, Hillary would have got in. It was complete garbage. And that's why we need Trump back. Hope you all enjoyed this video. If you did, smash that thumbs up button. Consider subscribing to the channel. Help it grow. Catch you all in the next video. Peace out, everybody.